Cunha here. This is going to be part number 3 of our Connecting the Past and the Present of Racial Injustice Explanatory Writing for our novel study Ghost Boys. So very quickly, I'm just going to review the writing task to refresh our memory. And then we will take a look at Ms. Cunha's first draft of her essay. So throughout our novel study, it is evident that racial injustice is a recurring issue as we have learned about the deaths of both Emmett Till and Jerome Rogers. How does the novel make connections between racial injustice in the past and present? What are the similarities in the ways each death impacted the public? Cite evidence from the text and videos we discussed that fully support your thoughts. So we have already completed part number 2, which was our thesis statement. Quick reminder, remember that a thesis statement is one sentence and it basically just restates the 2 questions you will be talking about throughout your essay. So I'm going to use the thesis statement that I gave you as an example. The novel connects racial injustice with the past and the present and shows how both Jerome and Emmett Till's death impacted the public. Now let's take a look at my writing. So part 3 is where we're going to write our essay, and we're going to take a look at one paragraph at a time. Now, paragraph 1 is our introduction, and every first paragraph, no matter what type of essay we're writing, always includes the same thing: a hook, introducing the source that we'll be citing from, with a summary perhaps, and then of course our thesis statement. So it's 3 main things. Take a look at the 3 different parts in different colors that I included that you see on your screen. The blue sentences are my hook. I decided to start with a statement. You can start with the statement as well. You can start with a definition. In this case, maybe giving a definition of what racial injustice or what racial prejudice means. You can also start with a question, but remember that if you start with a question, you need to add more than just the question. Perhaps an answer to the question, perhaps a thought to the question, right? And remember that whatever hook you decide to use, it needs to be connected to the topic of your essay. And the topic of our essay today is racial injustice. So make sure that whatever hook you decide to choose, it is connected to that topic somehow. Some students can also want to start with a quote, and that's a great idea. If you could find a nice quote that explains or that shows racial injustice and what it's about, or the fact that the world is filled with racial injustice, even though it shouldn't be. So I started with the statement. Let's take a look at how I started. In today's world, one would think that people have changed for the better. Kindness, empathy, equality, and love is promoted around the world. However, unfortunately, racial prejudice is still a recurring issue. Now here's my introduction to the novel. Ghost Boys, written by Joel Parker Rons, is about a fictional, innocent 12-year-old boy named Jerome. He gets killed due to racial prejudice. He meets the ghost of 1955's Emmett Till and learns that racial prejudice is something that has existed for many years and that he is not alone in this unjust world. The novel connects racial injustice with the past and the present and shows how both Jerome and Emmett Till's death impacted the public. A couple of things I want you to notice with my first paragraph. In my second part, or in that those pink sentences, notice how I included the title of the novel. You should do the same. And I also included the author. And in my summary, notice how this time in my summary, I included Emmett Till, right? And the fact that he's a ghost and he's able to communicate with Jerome. The reason why I did that is because my whole essay, or throughout my whole essay, I'm going to talk about both of these characters, right? I'm going to talk about Emmett Till and Jerome, and I have to say how they are connected, right? Because one is the past, and one symbolizes the past, and one symbolizes the present. So I wanted to make sure that my reader understands that. So as they now continue reading my essay, they will know who Jerome is and who Emmett Till is, okay? The next paragraph, paragraph number 2, is obviously our first body paragraph, right? And we know that in each body paragraph, that is where we follow racer. We restate and answer the question. We cite evidence, and in this case, we can cite evidence from the novel or the videos. Then we have to explain, and that explanation is super important, right? And when we explain, we also can include examples from the novel and things of that nature. And then, of course, we have our recap sentence kind of concluding our paragraph, because that's what a good paragraph does, right? You have an intro, and then you have the conclusion sentence. So notice the different colors. I followed the eraser color so I can show you the different parts. And you're going to notice in your gray box on the left side of your screen, you have some pointers there, okay? So you know what to follow. You also want to explain in this paragraph how the author includes Emmett as being part of the past or symbolizing the past, and Jerome symbolizing the present, right? And explain how both of their deaths showed racial prejudice, okay? And then, of course, you want to also explain how their deaths are similar, because that's how they connect, right? They have a lot of similarities in the way that they died. So a reminder, the first question was, how does the novel connect racial injustice with the past and the present? So look at how I restated and answered. In the novel, Joelle Parker Rons connects racial injustice with the past and present by including a victim from the past, Emmett Till, and one who symbolizes the most current victims, Jerome. According to the novel, Emmett was alive during the 1950s, representing the past, while Jerome was alive in the present years, representing the present. The author connects the past and present by allowing both boys to see and speak to each other throughout the story. Emmett begins to follow Jerome around, and although Jerome gets angry at first, they eventually become friends. The author also connects both boys by giving them so many similarities. For example, they both fear for their life right before they were murdered. Both boys also died alone with no aid to help them. Lastly, both boys have not received justice because no one has been convicted of their murder. Jerome and Emmett connect the past and the present because they are from different times but are similar in so many ways. So notice, I'm going to go back to the restate and answer. I restated that question perfectly. I answered it also by explaining how, or by showing how, Emmett represents the past and Jerome represents or symbolizes the future. Or not the future, I'm sorry, the current or present time. Then I cited evidence from the text. Now, even though I only have one ABT, right, according to the novel, if you look closely at my explanation in blue, like when I gave examples, all of those examples are really from the novel as well. So remember that your evidence and your explanation could somehow be connected, right? It kind of goes together. So that in that explanation, I explained how one is the past and one is the present, and I also explained how they're connected because of their similarities. So you want to do that in your explanation. And then, of course, you have your recap sentence.